Guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we have ourselves another Stunticon, as we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Deluxe Class Dead End. The second to last entry in this Stunticon lineup, Menasor, is vastly approaching, and I'm actually really excited to be able to complete that guy, as I think combiners just in general are an awesome concept, and I hope that we can see them going forward in Legacy Year 2. But as we come here to Dead End, I think as far as the entire Stunticon Deluxe lineup goes, they've definitely been a mixed bag. I really liked Dragstrip overall, wasn't too keen on Wild Rider, and when it comes to this guy, I think it's safe to say that he's a 50-50 split. Now as we take a look here at the details, I think the whole upper body looks fantastic, a really nice representation of the character. The chest has been painted super nicely, fully decked out in metallic silver with some glossy black highlights, and the mechanical detail, especially for this midsection, I actually think is pretty intricate. I love the way that's turned out, and the head sculpt as well looks fantastic. Unlike Dragstrip, we don't actually have any hollow head syndrome. This thing has been fully sculpted front to back, and I think the visor looks cool, kind of reminds me of a ski mask with that purple reflective tint, and I think the shoulders as well, the way the wheels actually fold up, look pretty cool. And this guy has way better kibble management when in comparison to Wild Rider. I mean, this thing is solid. It actually compacts fairly nicely to the back, and overall the plastic density is very thick. This definitely does feel like a high grade figure. Now sadly, as we come down here to the lower section, I'm going to be real with you guys and say that I think the design here for the legs is terrible, considering that this guy doesn't so much have to sacrifice anything for the combine mode, seeing as it is essentially just the car which sticks onto the endoskeleton. I do think they could have tried a little harder in nailing the looks here for the Stunticons when in their robot modes, as this is just not on at all, especially considering that the prices appear to be increasing but the quality appears to be slightly dipping. I mean, from a proportion perspective, surely it makes more sense if the thicker part of the leg is facing forwards for the knees, and I know this doesn't look great, but if I'm going to be honest, I actually think this looks a little better when in comparison to having this thick part at the back. So yeah, sadly I'm going to be real, I don't think these look great. It kind of looks like Dead End is wearing a pair of high heels, especially as it becomes super thin here for the lower section, and the feet are pretty weak in terms of design. But we do get some nice sculpt work here for the front. I mean, the mechanical detail does look on point, and this whole section for the thighs looks nice. But yeah, the legs are definitely not the best, especially in terms of design, and they're just incredibly simplistic, and you'll see more of that when it comes to transformation. But sculpt and paint wise for the upper body, I think looks fantastic. Now articulation wise, we do get a rotation here at the head, which can look left to right. The arms can rotate the full 360 as well as hinge out to the sides. Full rotation at the bicep, 90-degree bend there at the elbow. Sadly no form of wrist rotation, which is unfortunate, but we do get a full uncompromised waist joint. The legs can kick forwards that far, back to that far, out to the sides. Rotation at the thigh, I'd say roughly 85 degrees here at the knee, and then finally due to transformation the foot can pivot forwards and backwards as well as rock side to side to a really great extent. That is one thing I will mention. This guy is definitely fun to mess around with and just to play about with when in robot form. And I guess if you really didn't like the lower torso, you could recreate Jazz's death from the 2007 movie, take Motormaster's sword, wedge it into this gap, and want two pieces of Dead End, and there you guys have your 50-50 split. The good half and the bad half. I guess you could have just thrown this in the trash. I'm just joking, but he does detach in the same way as Dragstrip, and you'll see more of that later on when it comes to the combine mode. Now as far as accessories go, I was really pleasantly surprised to see that despite the design being very similar to the previous Stunticons, he does come with distinctive Energon blasters, which I thought was a really nice touch. We've got some really cool purple metallic paint here for the top as well as for the barrel, and they have been filled out front to back, which I thought was pretty sweet, and they do just simply peg into the hands, which more or less look like MechTech ports, and we can just snap those in, and there we have Dead End ready to take on some of the Autobots and of course merge with Menasor. Now as we turn to some comparisons, here we have Dead End compared alongside the rest of the Stunticons, Wild Rider, Motormaster and Dragstrip, and out of them all I think Motormaster is by far the best, and of course he's going to be, considering he's the most expensive. But one thing which I thought was pretty interesting is that Motormaster actually transforms into something different for his combined form, yet still retains a robot mode which looks super animation accurate, whereas here for these three, they basically just transform into their vehicle modes to form the combined mode. So I just don't think there's any excuse for the bot modes to be compromised as much as they are. I mean, Wild Rider wasn't the best in terms of that whole backpack, and I just don't think when it comes to Dead End, those legs look great at all. And even Dragstrip had his issues when it came to these front pieces for the vehicle mode on top of the shoulders. So yeah, the deluxe figures are definitely a mixed bag. I think this combiner set as a whole is going to be its strongest when in the combined form, but I guess they are probably the best best Stunticons we've seen officially released, but we'll no doubt 10 years down the line get a brand new lineup, which I'm hoping may be slightly better in the robot mode department. Now, turning to the transformation, I have seen some comments out there from fellow collectors saying that this guy's basically just an extensive retool of Dragstrip, and whilst the engineering is similar, I can assure you that he is a complete brand new sculpt from the ground upwards. So to kickstart things off, what you're going to want to do is take these sections here, rotate those around, and they will actually bump into this tab, which will basically stop them for their vehicle mode position. Come to this side, and rinse and repeat. We can then take these wheels and just rotate these sections down. Believe me, I have a few comments to say about these when we actually get him into vehicle form. Then you're going to want to come around here to the back and detach the backpack from the back section of the head. What that will then allow you to do is detach the shoulders. We can then take the head and neck and rotate this section down and basically extend these up. Now, this is really the only area which is vaguely familiar to Dragstrip's engineering, but it is very different, as you guys can see in terms of the molding. Snap these pieces here in at the top and just make sure that the arms are pegged into the torso. What we can then do is disengage this front portion of the vehicle mode from these two tabs, snap that section there into place, and just collapse all of this up just like so. And then when it comes to the legs, these are very simplistic, which is why I think in some aspects the engineering is a little lazy, as they definitely could have done something a little more interesting with these. All you do is take the shins, pop those off, and shoot these sections upwards, and that is basically the engineering and the transformation done for these. So just scoot those up. What we can then do is combine these two sections here in the middle. So just snap that section in, which is actually a little tougher than I remember. We can then just collapse all of that in. These two tabs will shoot into some slots here, just like that. We can then take these sections, snap those into place. Now for bot mode, the feet will be like this. Basically, these tiny tabs are going to slide into some slots here, and we do actually get some nice mechanical detail for this piece of the foot, which I guess is a decent attention to detail. So just snap all that in, and there we have Dead End fully transformed up into his vehicle mode, which I believe is supposed to resemble a Porsche. It looks really nicely done, I can't deny it. It looks fantastic here in its alt mode, but I just think the engineering is lazy on this guy. You're paying a deluxe price point, and when you take into consideration that there are some really cool figures in this line, such as Tarantulas and even the likes of RC and Knockout, which whilst I may not be a massive fan of their designs, their transformations were actually pretty involved. So I do think they've kind of copped out when it comes to these Stunticons, but overall I think the vehicle mode looks fantastic. I do think that out of all of the modes they did prioritise this, probably because this is what you'll see when in combined form, but this thing looks fantastic. I love the detail that we actually have here for the wheels. That gunmetal grey looks awesome, and you guys may be able to see they've actually sculpted in some suspension in there, which I thought was a pretty nice attention to detail. I think the front section here of the alt mode looks fantastic, the lights look super cool, and I do actually really like the stripe that we have going along this section of the vehicle. This is actually sculpted in and then painted over the top, and the black that we have here for the windows all the way around looks awesome. So vehicle mode is definitely where I think this figure shines in particular, but even this isn't without its flaws. Now I've risen the camera down as low as I can get it just to showcase exactly what I mean, and as you guys can see, this section just appears to stick out and jut out at the front, which, trust me when I say, really does make basically him rolling near enough impossible. These wheels don't actually have a catch, so as you can see they will just sink into position and they just will not touch the ground due to this thing sticking out, and I think that's a shame. Now you can bring these down, you can extend them, but they do look slightly funky, and considering that they're merely only on hinge joints, over time they do just slowly begin to slide up and you will have a dragging issue when it comes to this piece. So that is unfortunate, and especially when we do attach it onto the arm, it doesn't peg on nowhere near as seamless as some of the other Stunticons, which I do think, once again, is a shame. And here for that vehicle mode money shot, we have Dead End compared alongside the rest of the Stunticon team, and so far so good. I really do think in their vehicle modes all of these look fantastic, besides maybe the trailer looking a little wonky in the front department, but definitely a really solid team in their alt modes. I cannot wait to see how Breakdown turns out. I'm hoping that they are able to nail the robot mode for that figure, as so far Dead End and Wild Rider have left a slight bad taste in my mouth, but yeah, vehicle mode definitely does look the part. Now, turning to the combined mode, a process which even after 2 months since owning Motormaster still really hits that geek spot. Dead End attaches onto Menasor in the exact same way as Dragstrip did, so you'll want to basically just keep him in his normal vehicle mode. Before we actually delve into the combination process, I wanted to showcase how these Energon blasters do really nicely attach here onto the rear spoiler. I thought that was a really cool way of storing these weapons. But anyway, let's set these here off to the side and get down to what you guys are all here for. That, of course, being the super super cool combining process. So let's just realign the spoiler. Basically, what you're going to want to do is, on the underside of Dead End, much like Drag Strip, there are various different MechTech ports that are going to peg into these slots here. So basically, just align all of this up, give that there a nice squeeze, and oh my goodness, something which is just so awesome to do. You're basically just going to want to take the lower part and the upper part of the arm, split this here into two pieces, and as you guys can see, Dead End will seamlessly detach, which I think is just so cool. And from an engineering perspective, my goodness, I hope we can see something like this if they ever do approach a Superion, as I think that is just such a nice way to actually design these combiners. But just extend this section here out on both sides, collapse the wheels in, and there we have Dead End fully attached onto the arm of Menasor. So we're now actually going to get this attached onto the body, and I'll showcase how our combiner is shaping up so far. And here we have Menasor with the upper body basically completed. We have Drag Strip and Dead End fully attached. Now I won't go into too much detail in regards to this, as of course I will actually give Menasor his own individual review once we do get a breakdown, but wow, what a combiner this thing is turning out to be. One thing I will mention, however, is that I do wish that maybe Dead End could have seamlessly attached onto the arm like we're seeing here with Drag Strip. The way that this was just super flat and seamlessly integrated into the shoulder I thought was really cool, but here with Dead End there is some gappiness going on which I don't think looks the best, but yet again I'll save all of my qualms and critiques for the actual review. So as you guys can see, a very weighty combiner as well, and shaping up to be a very, very cool one. I'd love to know down in the comment section below, what do you guys think of how Menasor is looking so far? Really, really cool. And so, some final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Deluxe Class Dead End. Overall, it's alright. It's definitely an average release at best, I'd say. Had this not been a part of the combiner, then I'd say probably wait for this guy to go on clearance, but considering that he is a combiner, and if past experience is anything to go by, especially with the Studio Series Devastator, if you don't pick up these Stunticons now and wait for later, they're probably going to be really difficult to track down. So I would definitely recommend to get him for the combined form, but just as a standalone robot mode, it does leave a lot to be desired. I don't think the leg design is great. Now granted, it is only a deluxe class, but you have to factor in mind that some of those Studio Series figures that we saw for Devastator were deluxes too, and they were fantastic. They had really solid robot and vehicle modes, and they actually turned into a proper combined form, whereas here with the Stunticons, basically when it comes to the deluxe figures, they just stay in their vehicle modes. Nothing really changes. They don't actually become the combiner arm. They are just essentially armor. So I do wish they could have actually refined the robot modes, especially when it comes to the legs of Dead End, as they just do not look good, especially with the continuous inflation of prices that we're seeing with these deluxe figures. But with that being said, I do think the upper body looks fantastic. Articulation is definitely there. I think the accessories are nice. The vehicle mode looks awesome, and the transformation is actually quite fun to go through. But yet the vehicle mode still does have some issues, such as that front piece, which does sometimes prevent him from rolling, especially if the wheels do decide to recess back into kind of that cavity. And whilst the combine mode looks great and the way it actually integrates into the skeleton is awesome, I do wish that it was slightly flatter and more seamless fitting to that arm, much like we saw with Drag Strip. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you guys think of this Stunticon? Do you guys think that I'm being too harsh, or do you think that my thoughts are justified? As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.